Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. It is Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday for everybody out there. This is actually part 2 of our 2-part 10 more fabulously frightful horror recs. I love doing these so much. Horror is definitely one of my absolute favorite genres of film, and this time of year is just perfect for that. So we're just continuing from last week, which of course I will put in a link over here or over here because I never remember which way the links pop up. Anyway, I will put a link to part 1. I'll also have links to last year's top 25 picks as well. I tried to do, again, a little blend of different kinds of horror films in this little pocket of recommendations. I've got some genuinely terrifying, unsettling picks. I've got a couple that definitely blur the lines between comedy and horror. I've got one that's definitely a horror comedy classic. So hopefully you'll be able to find something that you really enjoy. I love all of these movies and I find them very entertaining regardless of what mood I'm in. So hopefully you will too. So as always, all of these recommendations are available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin Library Card. These picks are going to be available on our Hoopla Digital and Canopy services, so make sure you check those out. Even if none of these recommendations are for you, there are literally thousands of picks on there, so you will find something that you like. So anyway, I want to go ahead and jump right into these recs, so without any further ado, let's get to the picks. Okay, so pick number 1 for the week is available on Hoopla Digital, and it is for a Vincent Price vehicle that is a little bit different from your standard Vincent Price film, and that is the classic Theater of Blood. Now, it kind of has a pretty ominous title. However, unlike, say, Price's Pit in the Pendulum or House on Haunted Hill, Theater of Blood is a phenomenal, ludicrous, over-the-top blend of both horror and comedy and Shakespeare, making it sort of like this weird, wonderful, wacky, and zany movie that anyone who's a fan of any of those things absolutely has to watch. Now, in this one, Vincent Price is playing this aging actor who ends up getting panned by theater critics. He decides to end it all, but is miraculously saved from this suicide attempt, only to then later go on a murderous rampage where he gets revenge on all of these critics who were cruel to him via Shakespearean deaths. It sounds ludicrous, and it absolutely is. There's almost zero naturalism to this film whatsoever, but it's still so entertaining. You 100% will laugh out loud at parts. Like I said, it's quite over the top, and his character, his performative style is very much really in your face, very much not realistic whatsoever, but that's kind of the point. It's also wonderfully meta in a way, because Price had always been really regretful of the fact that he got typecast early on in his career as, you know, this master of horror characters, and he'd always wanted to do Shakespeare, he'd always wanted to do classical theater, and never had the chance. So this is sort of like his own opportunity to really just like dive in, and he 100% does. He hams it up and he chews scenery like the best of them, but it's still sort of wonderful to watch. Like I said, there's this meta level where you're enjoying the story, which is funny and scary and just campy and fabulous, but at the same time you're watching this person sort of live out his dream. You've also got a phenomenal performance by Diana Rigg, who considered this to actually be her best film. She said it in at least a couple of interviews, which I absolutely love about her. And even some of the critics you will probably recognize from many other very famous British films. So yeah, you've got these really elaborate death sequences playing out in front of you that are actually from Shakespearean productions. you know, I don't want to give anything away because that's sort of the joy of watching it, but you have these famous death scenes that Price's character then essentially forces these critics to enact, and some of them are really bloody and gross and gruesome as much as you can possibly make them, and they're definitely special effects wise a product of their time, but that only adds to kind of the camp element of the movie. Yeah, it's just really enjoyable. I would say, you know, if you're looking for something with tons of jump scares and like a whole lot of supernatural elements and things like that, this is not going to be it for you. But if you're looking for just a fun evening with some really like traditional horror elements in it, if you are a fan of theater, if you're a Vincent Price fan, if you enjoy, you know, just these really great storylines that will make you feel reminiscent of other period productions, check out Theater of Blood. It's just a great time. I can't recommend it enough. I hadn't seen it in years and years. I actually saw it, I think, like on late night TV at one point, so it was all staticky and dumb and interrupted by commercials every 5 minutes, it felt like. So sitting down and watching the whole film all together was really quite a treat. So make sure you check out on Hoopla Digital Theater of Blood, starring Vincent Price and Diana Rigg. You won't regret it. It's a really great time. Okay, moving right along to my next pick, which is also available on Hoopla Digital. This one is perfect for fans of really great character design, monster design. Like the demons in this film are crazy. This movie's called The Divine Fury, and it is from South Korea, so you do have a Korean language audio track and English subtitles, but as I say every time I mention a foreign film on here, totally worth it. And if there's going to be a genre where you could probably not pay attention too much to the dialogue, it's going to be horror, especially with a film as visual as this one. Now, in The Divine Fury, we're dealing with a young man named Young-hoo. He lost his father in a really horrific way when he was a child, and it's kind of traumatized him and followed him throughout his youth into his adulthood. And now he finds himself in a circumstance where something happens and he discovers some latent abilities that are absolutely insane, especially when dealing with demons. Now, you're in a world that pretty much doesn't know about monsters and demons and evil things, except for these little pockets of society that essentially exorcise these creatures. So his powers really come in handy with assisting these particular powers that be that know the actual situation that's going on. And he develops relationships with certain people within this who become mentors to him, essentially like father figures. And the relationship building is almost as big an element as the actual hunting of these monsters and the destruction of these evil creatures. But at the same time, you're really looking for those monster hunts and those fights because those sequences are amazing to watch. They're just really fun. That's the thing that I think everyone should remember with this one. It's designed to be as fun of a horror movie as you can imagine. Like, those fight sequences are insane. I really visually, they're just really, really cool to watch. And some of the character design is ludicrous. Like, there's this one monster, and I'm not going to give anything away. You can actually watch the trailer and see some of the characters that I'm talking about. And it's a jump scare in and of itself when they first reveal, because it's just design that I'm honestly not used to seeing. Like, some of these creatures are like straight out of folklore, and you know, I've seen them in my head when I've read like these horror stories, these traditional horror stories, but I've never seen like a depiction of some of them on screen, and it's scary. Like, it is very, very creepy, and I love that. I absolutely love that these look just disgusting and marvelously evocative. You have some actors who you might be familiar with. Park Seo-joon is huge in South Korea. He also had a smaller role in Parasite a couple of years ago. He's an excellent actor to play the Young-hoo character. The character who plays the priest that he becomes attached to is also quite famous, and if you've watched Korean film before, you've probably seen him as well. So you've got a really solid cast acting wise. Like, they definitely are in their roles. There's nothing like halved about it. And then you've got a pretty compelling storyline, one where you're on the edge of your seat pretty much throughout the film. There's enough action to keep you pulled in. There are enough jump scares to keep like the horror fan in you excited to see what happens next. And again, creature design is top notch. So if you're looking for something with a ton of action, really good fight sequences, solid acting, and just a compelling storyline with an excellent villain. Oh, I can't believe I almost didn't mention it. The villain in this is fantastic and thoroughly creepy, and the young man who plays him, if you are a Netflix person, he plays the unbreakable sword in King the Eternal Monarch, which was a massively popular K-drama a couple of seasons ago. But he's one of the secondary leads in that, and he does an exceptional job as the primary villain in this one. So again, if you're just looking for something fun, exciting, that will keep you in suspense, check out The Divine Fury. Great film. Now, I generally try not to pick too many foreign language films when I'm doing these compilation lists, but if you are just willing to traverse the language barrier with me one more time, I've got a phenomenal pick for you. Also available on Hoopla Digital. It's The Witch Subversion. Now, this is another South Korean film, but it's fantastic whether or not you're a horror fan. This one sort of blurs that line between horror, suspense, action, science fiction, fantasy. It's all kind of just smooshed up, and what comes out is just an exceptional film. You're dealing with a young girl named Jaeyoon. She ends up with adoptive parents who find her when she's very little, essentially near death. They don't know anything about her background. They have no idea where she comes from, who her family is. They just find her, and she needs someone to care for her. And so they do. And she grows up then with this very loving couple, and then some bad things start to happen. Little things, not necessarily huge situational drama, but little things that could happen to anybody. And then from there, Jaeyoon ends up being pursued by these very mysterious figures. We as the audience don't really know what's going on. We have no idea why she's suddenly in danger, but we do know that she has some rather unusual abilities, gifts, and it's pretty clear that these people know what those gifts are from and why she has them, and it leads to some pretty harrowing experiences and moments. And again, that suspense, the tension is there throughout the entire movie. And I think that's probably my favorite part. Nope, lied. There are a couple of action sequences that are my favorite part because those are crazy good. But yeah, that tension, it's pervasive throughout the movie. You're always like, what's happening? What's going to happen? Who are these people? Why are they chasing her? And it does it in a way where the storytelling isn't disjointed. It feels like everything is on purpose. It's not like they just left out some facts. You are definitely pulled along. She meets a great number of rather mysterious figures, including one played by Choi Woo-shik, who was the main younger man in Parasite. He's also the baseball player in Train to Busan, which is on my absolute must-watch list from a couple of years ago. In fact, excellent movie too. Don't forget that. But yeah, Choi Woo-shik is a phenomenal actor. He has been in a ton of dramas and films, and he always does an excellent job. And he plays a really great, mysterious, menacing figure in this as well. I've honestly never seen him play something quite so... evil's like a strong word in this case. Like, I wouldn't even describe it as such. I think it's better than just evil would be. He's definitely this guy with, one, very special abilities, much like her, but also just like there's just a menacing nature, a mysterious and menacing nature about him that makes him incredibly compelling in this. Some of his fight scenes with Jaeyoon, who is played by Kim Dami, also might be familiar if you watch Netflix and you've seen Itaewon Class. She's the main girl in that. Their scenes are phenomenal. They have excellent chemistry. Like, there's this simmering tension between them throughout any of their interactions, like this competitive awfulness. There's a big glaring danger sign above them. And those fight sequences are nuts. Like, so much happens, and it's so well choreographed. The fight choreography is incredible. Not just Jaeyoon's scene with this particular character, but fight sequences where she's essentially fighting teams of men in black. Like I said, she's got some seriously special abilities. Seriously special. And you see her and you see these intense things that she can do, and that juxtaposition with that girl and that face with the sweet young thing being taken care of by these two ordinary people. It's that juxtaposition is so striking. There are tons of twists and turns in this. The mystery element is amazing. But yeah, like the big reveals and everything are really great payoffs. At least I found them so. I wouldn't say it's like super duper surprising everything that you discover, but there were a couple of twists that I did not see coming whatsoever. So those are always really, really fun. But I also didn't feel manipulated, because that's a danger when you have twists that are so out of left field that you feel like you were somehow wronged. At least that's how I feel occasionally. Didn't have any of that. It was just a good, exciting movie with some really scary moments there, because there are some like pretty intense scares in here, but also just like really good action. Like I said, it doesn't matter what genre you're into. I would strongly recommend The Witch Subversion. If you like really good acting, if you like a really crazy, exciting storyline, this one is definitely for you. Okay, moving on to our next pick. This one is from Canopy, and this one is for the film Anna and the Apocalypse. Now, in Anna and the Apocalypse, no surprise, we're dealing with an apocalypse situation, and this one is of the zombie variety. This is one of those movies that totally missed my radar when it first came out, and I'm surprised because it's just such a fun little film and totally in the genres that I enjoy. This one's a horror comedy, kind of similar in some ways to, say, a Shaun of the Dead, but with its own like special quirks. I mean, it's not often you can describe something as a delightfully fun musical holiday spirited romp with zombies, comedy, and mildly gross scares, but this one does it. It also manages to have some genuinely warm and fluffy holiday moments. So it does, blaze its own path. It's not just, your typical comedy horror film that pulls the same exact tropes that every other comedy horror has done. Nope. It's its own thing. And it does a really good job with it. So we've got Anna, who is in this teeny tiny town, Little Haven. She's desperate to get out. She's almost out of school, but she has to finally make those last months count. And she has plans to just leave and explore and experience life. And there are a lot of obstacles in the way. And suddenly, those little obstacles are nothing compared to the giant zombie apocalypse that occurs. She and her group of friends have to fight back against the zombies and end up trying to get to their school in order to find family members who might be there. They're also hoping that the army is going to be able to have an evacuation from the school system. So it's quite a ridiculous and zany ride, let me tell you, intermixed with music. Like that, I don't know why more of these comedy horror films don't throw in some musical numbers, but they're fantastic. They really were such a fun and entertaining time. Now, you've got some really, really solid acting from the youngsters, most of whom are pretty well unknown. And that was on purpose. They did cast that way for a reason. But amongst the adults, you do have Paul Kaye, who some of you might know from Game of Thrones. He was Thoros of Myr, and he was wonderful in that and fantastic in this. He's sort of this like authoritarian assistant principal, and he's awful, but he does a wonderful job at being absolutely awful. And he's sort of like an anchor within the adult faction of this movie. And amongst the kids, they're all fantastic, but the main girl, Anna, she is delightful. There are times when this type of character just irritates the ever-loving heck out of me, but I didn't feel that way at all with this. I just liked her. She was just fun, and you want her to succeed. You want her to be able to wander the world and have a good time and find out who she is despite the zombie apocalypse going on. So if you're looking for something that is quite unexpected, that is laugh out loud funny in spots, that will have you tapping your toe to some really pretty great musical numbers, if you're looking for solid comic acting, if you just want something a little off the beaten path, check out Anne and the Apocalypse. It is a great holiday movie to add to your list as well, and I think you will have a really good time with it. So again, on Canopy, Anne and the Apocalypse, definitely check it out. Okay, so while my other picks for this week were all either exciting or funny or classically campy, this final pick is for a truly, truly unsettling film available on Canopy, and that is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This one was recommended to me by a friend who knows that I love horror movies, and I'm not sure how to take this recommendation. It is an excellent film. Like, the acting is phenomenal. The storyline is really quite gripping and compelling, but it is weird. It is weird in a way that I haven't watched in a while, and truly deeply unsettling. Even like a few weeks after initially watching it, I'm still like not sure what happened. I mean, you're supposed to be kind of unsure. It is supposed to be unsettling. It is absolutely that kind of film. Anyway, in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, you're dealing with Dr. Stephen Murray. He is this world-renowned cardiovascular surgeon. He has tons of money, success. He's got a beautiful family, a beautiful wife. He's played by Colin Farrell. His beautiful wife is played by Nicole Kidman. He's got 2 kids. I mean, he's got the perfect life. And then he meets this young man named Martin, who he doesn't really know, but whose life has been sort of peripherally connected to his. Martin had lost his father, and he just kind of ends up tying his teenage life to Stephen's. And Stephen just sort of lets him, he grows kind of attached to Martin, enough so that he invites Martin home to meet his family. And that's when things take a turn. I don't want to unfold too much, because I think part of what leaves you so unsettled is watching each of these moments happen. And it's like checking a box. You know that something's not quite right. You can't put your finger on it at first. Even at the end, when you know like the impetus of things, it's still confusing. I mean, excellent. Again, excellent film, but you're just like, what did I just watch? In the best of ways. Seriously, in the best of ways. There's this pervasive feeling of dread throughout. Even when nothing terrible has happened at all. The atmosphere of this movie is so well done. You know something's coming from the very first few scenes. I don't know if it's a combination of the music and the setting and like the lighting, but there's just this feeling of something pressing on your chest the whole time. And it's phenomenally well done. I mean, that atmosphere is crazy. Anyway, Martin, you discover pretty quickly, is not the sweet young teenager that we all assumed, or at least not the totally benevolent, benign one that he seems to be. He's got an agenda, and as that agenda unfolds, like, horrible things really start to happen. Like, truly disturbing elements, things that, like, there's this supernatural, fantastic element to some very solid, realistic acting. That's when I think I love these kinds of movies the most. When the acting is phenomenally well done and very, very much in the realm of realism, but you add this layer of fantasy that sort of makes everything a little bit off kilter. Like, you're not expecting it to be that way. And this does it so well. It weaves the elements of disbelief in with all of that realism, and it just becomes like one of those things that sends chills up and down your spine. Like, obviously this isn't going to happen in real life, but maybe it could. I really enjoy films like that play with your head, and this one is trippy as all get out. If you're looking for something that explores human nature, because there's this one moment that is absolutely terrifying, that is the perfect example of pushing someone too far, that happens towards the end of the film, and I still think about it, and it was visually stunning and awful in the absolute best of ways. So if you're looking for something unsettling that isn't scary in the sense that there are boo jump scares and monsters and things like that, but that explore human nature, that have fantasy elements in them, but that really are steeped in realism, that has a compelling storyline, and that will seriously leave you feeling off kilter afterward, check out The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It is really, really solid. I honestly have not seen a movie like this in a while that has left me feeling so off kilter and unsettled. It is really well done. I can't recommend it enough. Again, available on Canopy, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Okay, I have reached the end of part 2 of our 10 more fabulously frightful horror film recs for this year. As always, I've had such a fun time putting these together. If you have any recommendations for horror films, please comment with those below. You know I love scary movie recommendations. I'm always looking for more. If you have recommendations for other themes you would like to see us, work on in the future, please comment with those as well. All of these recommendations are available on Hoopla or Canopy with the use of your library card. They're totally free and fantastically wonderful, so make sure you check that out. Use your library card. It's a gateway to some incredible movies. So I'm just going to go ahead and close everything out. Thank you so much for joining me again. Hopefully I will see you very soon. So have a happy Halloween, and a safe one at that. Bye-bye.